Clara would remember the sound before anything else, the soft roll of suitcase wheels against the hallway's old wooden floor, because it was the first thing that made her pulse trip over itself. Not the wheels exactly, but the way the sound paused right outside her door, followed by a quiet exhale she wasn't meant to hear. A woman's exhale. Warm, steady, like someone grounding herself before stepping into a new life. And Clara didn't know why that breath slipped under her skin, but she felt something tighten in her chest, a sensation as quick as a match strike. She pressed her hand against the cool metal of her doorknob, unsure whether she was curious, or just lonely in a way she had never admitted. She'd tell herself later that this moment meant nothing. But right then, before she even saw the woman, Clara felt the world tilt a single degree, subtle and disorienting, like catching a glimpse of her reflection in a window and not recognizing her own face. Before we go deeper into this, if stories like this resonate with you, WLW tension, longing, and quiet fire, feel free to subscribe, hit like, and tell me where you're watching from. She opened the door a few inches, intending only to peek. Sunlight from the stairwell washed down the hallway, soft and golden, turning dust particles into slow-moving sparks. And there she was. Elise. She stood with one hand on her suitcase, the other brushing a lock of dark blonde hair behind her ear. She wore a loose linen shirt tucked carelessly into jeans, the kind of effortless style Clara never managed, even when she tried. Elise's eyes, soft gray, almost silver, lifted with a quiet curiosity that felt like being seen before being evaluated. "Hi," she said, voice warm, smooth like late afternoon air. "I'm your new neighbor." Clara should have answered normally. She should have smiled, said welcome, maybe offered help with the door. Instead, she just stared too long, too openly, before her words stumbled out. "Oh. Hi. I'm Clara. I live here." "Good," Elise said with a small laugh. "It would be awkward if you didn't." The joke was gentle, but Clara felt her cheeks warm. She stepped out, letting the door close behind her, the soft click echoing louder than it should. Elise reached for the doorknob of her new place, but her suitcase tipped slightly. Instinctively, Clara moved to steady it. Their fingers brushed, barely, and Clara felt the contact like a warm ripple across her entire body. A simple touch. Nothing more. But something inside her broke open, thin as a hairline crack in glass. She pulled her hand back quickly, hoping Elise didn't notice how her breath caught. Elise only smiled, soft and grateful, like she believed people were kind by default. "Thank you," she murmured. Clara nodded, afraid her voice would betray her. The hallway suddenly felt warmer, too close, too intimate. She stepped back, needing distance to breathe. Elise didn't follow, she just watched with a calm, steady presence that made Clara feel observed in a way she didn't understand. Later that night, Clara pretended to focus on her homework. Her boyfriend sent a text, something predictable about dinner next weekend, and she answered automatically. But her attention drifted toward the thin wall that separated their apartments. She could hear faint sounds, boxes shifting, a cabinet door closing, footsteps moving slowly across new floors. Each sound carried Elise's presence with it. Clara sat up straighter when the footsteps paused near their shared wall. Her whole body listened. She knew it was ridiculous, but for a moment she wondered if Elise had stopped because she also felt something. The next morning, the smell of coffee drifted into the hallway when Clara left for class. Elise's door was ajar, sunlight warming the entryway. She was kneeling on the floor surrounded by small framed photographs, landscapes, mostly, soft muted tones. She held one in her hands, running her thumb over the glass as if the memory inside mattered more than the picture itself. "Morning," Clara said, trying to sound casual. Elise looked up, her smile blooming slow and genuine. "Good morning." Clara stepped closer before she could second-guess it. The apartment behind Elise felt like a breath held between boxes and new beginnings. "You're up early," Elise said. "Could say the same about you." Elise laughed quietly, tilting her head. "I usually am. Mornings make more sense to me, even when I'm still figuring a place out." Clara didn't know what to do with the warmth that spread through her at the sound of that laugh, or at the sight of Elise sitting so comfortably on the floor, like she belonged there already. "You want help with anything?" Clara asked. "Maybe later." Elise lifted another frame, studying it. "I like doing the first part alone. It helps me understand what kind of home it's supposed to be." Clara nodded, pretending to understand. But what she really understood was the small shiver that ran through her when Elise's eyes met hers again, unhurried, steady, almost curious. Someone called Clara's name from downstairs, her classmate waiting for her carpool. She startled, stepping back so quickly she nearly knocked into the doorframe. "Oh, sorry," she muttered. Elise rose gracefully to her feet, brushing dust from her jeans. She stepped closer, not touching, but close enough that Clara felt the warmth radiating from her body. "Don't apologize," Elise said softly. "You didn't do anything wrong." Clara swallowed. She wasn't so sure. For the rest of the day, she drifted. She misheard a professor, lost her train of thought twice, almost walked into a pole outside the library. Her roommate asked if she was sick. Clara blamed it on bad sleep. The truth followed her like a soft echo, the memory of Elise's voice, her scent, notes of citrus and something warm like sandalwood, and that fleeting brush of fingers that replayed in the spaces between every rational thought. When she returned home, she slowed her steps unconsciously as she approached the hallway. Elise's door was open again, this time revealing her adjusting a small potted plant on the windowsill. The soft evening light draped over her, turning her outline golden. Elise looked over her shoulder, catching Clara in the act of watching. Not judging, just noticing. "Hey," she said gently. "Long day?" "Yeah," Clara breathed. "You could say that." Elise's smile was faint but kind, like she understood more than Clara had said. She stepped closer to the doorway, leaning her shoulder softly against the frame. "You're welcome to come in any time," she said. "Only if you want, of course." Clara's stomach fluttered. She nodded too quickly. Maybe later." "Whenever," Elise replied, voice warm with invitation but never pressure. As Clara reached her own door, something made her turn. Elise was still watching her, open, gentle, unguarded. Not flirtatious. Not demanding. Just present. And somehow that presence felt more dangerous than any intention could have. Clara closed her bedroom door behind her and exhaled shakily. She pressed her fingers to her temples, trying to make sense of herself. But every attempt to name what she felt dissolved into the same undeniable truth. She had never reacted to anyone like this. Not even close. And as she lay in bed that night, eyes open in the dark, she realized everything had shifted the moment Elise smiled at her. She just didn't know yet where that shift would lead. Clara told herself she wouldn't linger by the window that morning. She had an early class, a half-finished project waiting on her laptop, and absolutely no reason to keep glancing toward Elise's apartment as if something in that quiet space might shift the orbit of her day. But when she opened her blinds, the soft light fell across the courtyard, catching on Elise's balcony door, slightly open, curtains stirring with the breeze, and Clara's breath faltered. A warm draft drifted into her room, carrying the faint scent of brewing coffee. For a moment, she imagined Elise standing inside, hair a little messy, mug in hand, looking out with that calm, sunrise-warm expression she wore so effortlessly. The thought alone made Clara steady her grip on the windowsill. It wasn't normal to think about a neighbor like this. It wasn't wise. And yet, she didn't look away. She pressed her forehead briefly against the cool glass, trying to gather herself. The feeling had grown since yesterday, not louder, just deeper, like a low vibration stirring somewhere she'd never noticed before. She forced herself to step back. She needed movement, distraction, anything. But her hand froze on her door handle when she heard Elise laughing softly through the wall. A light, melodic laugh, unintended, unguarded, that made something inside Clara melt. It was ridiculous how much she wanted to be the reason Elise laughed like that. She composed herself, opened her door, and nearly collided with Elise in the hallway. Elise wore a loose cotton dress in a pale earthy tone, hair pulled into an imperfect bun that somehow made her look even more luminous. In her hands, a small cardboard box overflowing with tangled cords. "Oh, Clara," she said, catching the box before it slipped. "Good timing. I was just about to knock." Clara blinked, heart jumping. "Knock? On my door?" Elise lifted the box a little. "I'm having a technological crisis. I can't figure out which cord belongs to which speaker. Or if any of them even work." Clara let out a laugh before she could stop herself. "You want help? Only if it won't ruin your morning." Elise's smile held a softness that tugged at her. "But you seem like someone who knows the difference between an HDMI and a power cable." Clara tried not to beam. "I do, actually." Inside Elise's apartment, morning light spilled across half-unpacked boxes and a plant that leaned toward the window as if greeting the sun. A soft instrumental playlist hummed from her phone, warm and atmospheric. Clara knelt beside the box, sorting through cables while Elise sat cross-legged on the floor across from her. Every now and then their knees brushed lightly, accidentally, but each time it happened, Clara felt it again, that flood of warmth, rising like tidewater. "So what do you do?" Elise asked, resting her chin on her hand. "Study communications." "Not as exciting as it sounds." "I disagree," Elise said gently. "I think understanding how people express themselves is fascinating." Clara looked up. Elise's gaze was steady, curious. Not pushing, but listening. Really listening. "Well," Clara murmured, fiddling with a chord, "sometimes I feel like I don't understand myself, so understanding other people feels safer." The words slipped out before she realized how exposed they were. Elise's expression softened, concern threading through the silver of her eyes. "Clara," she said quietly, "most people don't understand themselves at 22. You're not behind. You're just unfolding." The room went still. Clara felt something stir in her chest, a mixture of reassurance and a longing she couldn't name. Then Elise's phone buzzed. The sound broke the moment like a glass dropped on tile. "Ah, sorry," Elise said, glancing at the screen. She frowned gently. "Work stuff. They need me earlier than planned today." Clara felt a subtle pinch of disappointment. She tried not to show it. "Oh. Then I should let you get ready." But Elise shook her head. "No, you're fine. Actually, would you mind helping me this evening instead? I'm trying to set up a small bookshelf, and I could use an extra pair of hands." Clara didn't know what to do with the sudden rush of warmth that pulled low beneath her ribs. Sure. Yes. Of course." "Good," Elise said softly. "I like having you around." The confession was light, casual. But it destabilized everything inside Clara. She left for class feeling unreal, her body moving through the world while her thoughts stayed behind, still kneeling on Elise's floor, still hearing that single sentence echo through her, "I like having you around." By afternoon, the universe decided to complicate things. Her boyfriend, Luca, sent a text asking to meet after class. He waited by the campus fountain, hands in his pockets, nervous energy rolling off him in uneven waves. "Clara," he began, "I feel like we haven't been connecting lately." Her stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" "You seem distracted," he said. "Distant." She forced a laugh. "Midterms?" But even she didn't believe it. "I think we should take a little space," Lucas said carefully. "Not break up, just slow down until things feel right again." The relief hit her before the guilt did. She masked both. "Maybe you're right," she murmured. They hugged, and she felt nothing twist inside her. No ache, no fear, no spark. Only an odd quiet, like a door gently closing. She walked home with a strange clarity blooming behind her ribs, then panicked when she remembered the evening ahead. The bookshelf. Elise. Being alone with her again. By the time she reached their hallway, her pulse was already quickening. Elise's door was open, revealing her pulling her hair into a loose half-tie, sleeves rolled up to her elbows. "There you are," Elise said, her voice warm in a way that wrapped around Clara's senses. "You ready to build furniture with questionable instructions?" "Born ready," Clara whispered, unable to keep her smile from spreading. Elise handed her a screwdriver, their fingers brushing, light, brief, electric. A hum passed between them, subtle but unmistakable. They worked side by side in the living room, spotlighted by the soft golden glow of a floor lamp. The scent of wood and Elise's perfume blended in the air, citrus and warmth, and Clara felt her breath shift with every inch Elise moved closer. At one point, Elise stepped behind her to reach a panel, her chest brushing lightly against Clara's back. The contact was accidental, fleeting, but Clara froze. Elise did too. "Sorry," Elise whispered, voice suddenly softer. "It's okay," Clara breathed, not trusting herself to turn around. Silence rose between them, heavy, charged, waiting. Elise's hand hovered near Clara's waist, not touching, just close enough for Clara to feel the warmth. Her breath brushed the back of Clara's neck. And for a heartbeat, Clara thought Elise might lean in. Clara turned her head slightly, drawn by something she couldn't fight. Elise's eyes met hers, gray brightening into something tender and questioning. The space between them thinned, softened, pulled tight like silk stretched too far. Then Elise stepped back. A gentle retreat, as if protecting something fragile inside both of them. "We should finish the top shelf," she said quietly. The moment slipped away like a tide receding. But its imprint stayed, a warmth Clara couldn't shake. When the bookshelf finally stood assembled, Elise smiled at Clara with a gratitude that felt far too intimate for two people who barely knew each other. "Thank you," she murmured. "I don't know how I would have done this without you." "You would have figured it out," Clara whispered. "Maybe," Elise said, her eyes softening again. "But I'm glad I didn't have to." The air between them stretched, ripe with something neither dared name. Clara felt the promise of something unspoken hovering just beyond reach, like the faint glow of a candle just before the flame catches. She stepped toward the doorway, heart beating too fast. "Good night, Elise." "Good night, Clara," Elise answered, her voice gentle, lingering. "Sleep well." Clara closed her own door behind her, leaning back against it. Her hands trembled, just slightly, as she pressed them against her chest. The memory of Elise's breath on her skin replayed in waves. Her almost smile. Her almost touch. Her almost confession. Clara didn't know where this was heading. She only knew that whatever waited next was already pulling her forward, quietly, insistently, like a force she wasn't ready to resist. Clara wasn't sure when it became a habit, listening for the soft rhythms of Elise's life through the wall. The faint drum of her music, the quiet scrape of furniture being shifted, the mellow clink of a mug against her counter. These sounds threaded themselves into Clara's days like a second heartbeat, subtle but constant. By midweek, they existed in an unspoken orbit. Passing each other in the hallway felt different now, like every shared glance carried the weight of their almost moment beside the bookshelf. Elise would smile gently, her eyes soft, and Clara's breath would stutter in a way she couldn't always hide. Sometimes Elise's gaze lingered just a second too long. Sometimes Clara stepped a little closer than necessary. And sometimes, silence said more than words ever could. One evening, rain began falling in a thin, steady sheet, soft enough to sound like static whispered against the windows. Clara wrapped herself in a hoodie and sat on the floor by her bed, trying to distract herself with class notes. But she kept drifting. Kept imagining Elise, hair slightly damp from the walk home, slipping into her apartment with that warm, unbothered grace she carried like a second skin. The rain deepened. Wind pressed a cool draft through the cracked window frame. And then, a soft knock. Not urgent. Not hesitant. Just gentle. Clara's heart snapped awake. She stood so quickly she nearly tripped on her blanket. When she opened her door, Elise stood there with her hair in loose waves, the ends darkened from the drizzle. She wore a cozy sweater in a muted forest green, sleeves pulled over her hands. Her cheeks were slightly flushed from the cold, and the soft hallway light made her look almost unreal, like something stepped out of a memory Clara never lived. "Hey," Elise said, pushing a stray lock behind her ear. "Sorry to bother you so late." "You're not bothering me," Clara said, the words immediate and too honest. Elise's smile faltered into something softer, something that made Clara pull in a slow breath. "I was wondering," Elise said, holding up a small tin box with a sheepish tilt of her head, "if you wanted to share tea? I bought too much, and the rain makes everything feel lonely." Clara blinked. Tea. Rain. Elise asking for company. "Yes," she said quietly. "I'd love to." Inside Elise's apartment, the lights were low, warm enough to cast their shadows onto the walls. A faint citrus scent floated through the air, mixing with the earthy steam rising from the kettle on the stove. Clara perched at the edge of Elise's couch while Elise prepared the tea, moving slowly, thoughtfully. When she returned, she sat close enough that their knees almost touched. The couch cushion dipped slightly beneath her weight, the gentle shift brushing Clara's thigh. "You okay?" Elise asked. Clara nodded, fingers warming around the mug. "Yeah. Today was a lot. Want to tell me?" Elise's voice was soft, but not coaxing, an invitation, not a demand. Clara hesitated. She wasn't sure why the truth rose so quickly this time, but it did. "Luca and I took a break," she murmured. "He thinks I've been distant." Elise's breath caught, subtle but noticeable. She didn't gloat. Didn't pry. "Are you okay with that?" Clara looked down into the tea, watching the steam curl upward. "I think so. I think I've been somewhere else lately. Feeling things I don't know how to name." The confession hung between them, both fragile and bold. Elise's fingers inched closer along the cushion, slow, deliberate, stopping only when Clara didn't move away. "What kind of things?" Elise whispered. The air shifted. Warmed. Tightened. Clara lifted her gaze, meeting Elise's eyes, and everything she'd pushed down flooded up at once. The way Elise's breath softened when she listened. The warmth of her touch beside the bookshelf. The space between them that felt too small and too big at the same time. "I don't know what's happening to me," Clara said, voice trembling in places she didn't want to admit. "But when I'm around you, it feels like something is trying to open. And it scares me." Elise exhaled slowly, her eyes glimmering with something tender and aching. "It scares me too." Clara froze. The room froze. The rain softened outside as if leaning in to listen. Elise shifted slightly, closer, but still left the next move for Clara. Her hand rested open on her thigh, palm up, waiting without expectation. Clara's breath trembled. She placed her fingers into Elise's slowly, like testing a flame she already knew would burn. The warmth that surged through her arm was gentle, not overwhelming. Elise tightened her hand only when Clara didn't pull away. Consent, spoken through touch, silence, and breath. Elise's thumb brushed the back of Clara's hand. A small gesture. Barely anything. But the world tilted around that single point of contact. "You can tell me to stop," Elise whispered. "I don't want you to stop," Clara breathed. The shift was immediate, like a string drawn taut finally surrendering to tension. Elise leaned in a fraction, her breath warm against Clara's cheek. Clara inhaled shakily, her entire body alight with anticipation and fear and a hunger she didn't yet know how to understand. Their foreheads brushed first, light as the rain tapping the window. Clara closed her eyes, feeling Elise's warmth gather between them like a quiet storm. Elise whispered, "Clara." A question hidden inside her voice. Clara answered by lifting her chin an inch. "Just one. Just enough." The kiss came softly, barely a kiss at all at first. More a shared breath, a trembling closeness that grew slowly, sweetly, like dawn light creeping over the horizon. Elise's lips were warm, patient, asking nothing more than what Clara offered. Clara's hand rose tentatively to Elise's cheek, fingertips grazing her skin with a reverence she didn't know she possessed. Elise leaned into the touch, deepening the kiss only by a whisper, letting Clara set the pace. Clara felt herself unfold, not rushed, not overwhelmed, but gently undone. When they parted, it wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. A tender stillness. Their breaths mingled softly, their hands still intertwined. Clara's heart hammered. Elise looked at her with an expression she couldn't read fully, hope threaded with fear, desire wrapped in uncertainty. "Are you okay?" Elise murmured. "I think so," Clara whispered. "Are you?" Elise gave a small, shaky laugh. "Trying to be." Clara leaned back slightly, overwhelmed by emotion she didn't have a name for. She'd expected fireworks or panic. Instead, she felt a warm ache spreading through her chest, gentle and devastating all at once. But the world, always inconvenient, intruded. Clara's phone buzzed sharply on the couch beside her. She flinched. Elise did too. One glance at the screen made Clara's stomach twist. A text from Luca. "Can we talk? Something doesn't feel right." Clara's breath stalled. Elise saw the shift, how Clara's body tensed, how the color drained slightly from her face. "You don't have to explain," Elise said quietly, pulling her hand back with painful care. "It's okay." Clara's sudden emptiness at the loss of Elise's touch terrified her. "Elise, But Elise shook her head gently, offering a soft, sad smile. "It's all right, Clara. Really. You should go figure out what you need to figure out." Clara blinked rapidly, heart tightening. The kiss still tingled on her lips. Her mind was a storm of guilt and longing and confusion. "I didn't want to stop," she whispered. Elise's eyes softened with something close to heartbreak. "I know." Clara stood slowly, feeling the distance grow like a cold draft. Elise didn't move closer. Didn't reach for her again. She just watched, fragile in a way Clara had never seen. As Clara stepped into the hallway, she felt the weight of the moment settle over her like damp air before a storm. She had crossed a line, one she couldn't uncross. And now, she didn't know what waited on the other side. Only that it would change everything. Clara barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt Elise's lips against hers, warm, tender, impossibly gentle. The memory pulsed like a heartbeat beneath her skin. It should have brought clarity. It should have given her answers. Instead, it left her suspended in a fragile ache that wouldn't settle. And beneath that ache lived fear. Fear of what she'd done. Fear of what she wanted. Fear of everything she couldn't take back. Luca's message still sat unanswered on her phone, a small glowing round she couldn't bear to touch. She kept staring at her screen, turning it face down, then face up again, as if the answer might appear without her choosing it. It didn't. By morning, her chest felt tight, threaded with exhaustion. The rain from the night before had stopped, leaving the world washed and too bright. Clara eventually forced herself to leave her room, but she moved with the heaviness of someone trying not to think. The hallway outside smelled faintly of Elise's citrus sandalwood perfume, a scent that tightened Clara's breath the way a memory does when it's too raw to hold. Elise's door was closed. Quiet. No soft footsteps. No music. Not even the sound of a drawer sliding open. Clara hesitated. Wanted to knock. Didn't. She slipped out of the building as if she were escaping something burning behind her. But guilt followed. And longing. And a heat beneath her ribs that felt dangerously close to grief. At class, she barely heard the lecture. Her pen hovered uselessly above her notes. When her phone vibrated, she jumped, heart hammering. But it wasn't Luca. It was Elise. Hope you're okay today. Truly. A simple message. Gentle. Thoughtful. It hurt in a way Clara didn't know how to describe. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, typing and deleting variations of the truth. I don't know what I'm feeling. I think I want you. Last night terrified me. Please don't pull away. But in the end, she wrote nothing. Turned her phone off. Avoidance felt like the only thing she had control over. By late afternoon, clouds gathered again, heavy, low, thick with impending rain. Clara stood in the courtyard, staring up as if the sky might give her instructions. She felt the weight of her choices in her limbs, slowing everything she did. When she finally returned home, she paused at the bottom of the stairs, steadying herself. She didn't know if Elise would be there. She didn't know if she hoped she would, or hoped she wouldn't. But Elise was there. Standing in the hallway, keys in hand, wearing a soft charcoal sweater and jeans, her hair falling loosely over her shoulders. She looked up at the sound of Clara's steps, and their eyes met with an impact Clara felt physically, like a sudden drop in altitude. "Hi," Elise said quietly. Clara swallowed. "Hi." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It moved, slow, pulsing, full of unspoken things. Elise stepped forward gently, her voice low. "You didn't answer my message." "I know," Clara whispered. "Did I do something wrong?" Elise asked, and there was a softness in her eyes that nearly undid Clara. "No," Clara said quickly. "No, you didn't. I don't know what to say." Elise looked down for a moment, thumb brushing the edge of her keyring. "Then maybe we should talk. If you want." Clara hesitated. The hallway felt too open, too vulnerable. "Maybe inside?" she murmured. Elise nodded and stepped back to let her in. Inside the apartment, the air smelled of rain-soaked wood and warm tea. The lights were low, casting gold across the room. A half-read book lay face down on the couch. A plant leaned toward the window. Everything felt familiar now, dangerously familiar. Elise motioned to the couch. Clara sat at the far end without meaning to, leaving a polite distance that made both of them wince internally. Elise sat across from her, elbows resting lightly on her knees. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I don't want you to feel pressured by anything that happened." Clara's throat tightened. "You didn't pressure me." She stopped. Looked down. "Who made me feel something again?" Clara's heart clenched painfully. "Elise." "You don't owe me anything," Elise continued. "Not clarity. Not decisions. Not certainty. She raised her eyes again, gray stormy with emotion. "I like being around you. And yesterday, when we kissed, it felt like something I'll think about for a long time." A breath caught in Clara's chest. She felt herself leaning slightly, instinctively, toward the warmth of Elise's voice. But then Elise leaned back, breaking the tension. She needed space. Or she was giving Clara space. Clara wasn't sure. The room felt colder. "Maybe not," Elise said softly. "But something scared you afterward." Clara's breath trembled. She stared at her hands, nodded in her lap. "Everything scares me right now." "Because of him?" Elise asked gently. "Partly," Clara admitted. "But mostly because of how it felt." Elise inhaled sharply, but quietly, as if trying not to reveal too much. "How did it feel?" Clara closed her eyes. The memory rose like a tide, the warmth of Elise's lips, the way her breath had softened against Clara's cheek, the way everything else had fallen away. "It felt right," she whispered. "And that terrifies me." Elise's reaction was a slow, involuntary softening, shoulders easing, expression warming with something like relief and heartbreak blending together. Clara opened her eyes to find Elise closer, not touching, but closer, sitting on the cushion beside her. The distance between them was now only a breath. Elise spoke carefully. "Clara, I need you to know something." Clara waited. "I didn't plan any of this," Elise said, voice trembling faintly. "I moved here to start over. To have peace. I didn't expect to meet someone who..." Clara looked toward the bookshelf they'd built together. The one that started everything. The small plant she'd helped Elise place on the top shelf now drooped slightly, needing water, its leaves bowing as if mimicking the quiet ache of the moment. A symbolic mirror of everything between them, something beautiful, delicate, and in danger of wilting if ignored. Elise followed Clara's gaze. "I should water that," she murmured. Clara stood abruptly. "I should go." Elise blinked in surprise. "Now? I don't know what's happening to me," Clara whispered. "And I need to figure it out before I hurt you. Or myself. Or both." Elise rose slowly. "I don't want to lose whatever this is." Clara flinched, not at the words, but the longing inside them. "I don't either. But I feel like I'm walking into something I don't know how to survive." Thunder rumbled faintly outside, low and distant. Elise stepped closer, carefully, gently, and reached for Clara's hand. She didn't take it. She just let her fingers hover, waiting, offering presence without pressure. Clara didn't move away. But she didn't take the hand either. Their breath mingled in the stillness. "Can I ask one thing?" Elise whispered. Clara nodded, unable to speak. "Did you regret it?" The question sliced Clara open. "No," she breathed. "I regret everything except that." Emotion flickered across Elise's face, relief, sorrow, something deeper. Clara stepped back, heart pounding with a painful mixture of longing and fear. "I just need time," she whispered. "I'll give you whatever time you need," Elise said. "Just Don't disappear. Clara exhaled shakily. I won't. She hoped it was true. Elise opened the door for her, a quiet, almost reverent gesture. Clara stepped into the hallway, but turned back once more. Elise stood framed in warm light, eyes soft, lips parted as if she were holding back a final confession. Clara almost spoke. Almost crossed the threshold again. Almost reached for her. But instead, she whispered, "Good night." Elise whispered back, "Good night, Clara." The door closed gently, too gently, and Clara stood alone in the dim hallway, her heart suspended between the life she'd known and the woman she was beginning to want with terrifying clarity. Clara spent the next 2 days inside herself. Not hiding exactly, just moving through the world with a quietness that felt like walking underwater. Sounds muted. Thoughts too loud. Breath catching at odd moments, especially when she passed the shared wall or heard the faint hum of Elise's music drifting from next door. She told herself she was giving them space. She told herself she needed clarity. But clarity didn't come. What came were memories. Elise's lips soft with hesitation. The warmth of her breath against Clara's cheek. The way her hand had hovered near Clara's, offering care without demand. Clara tried journaling. She tried ignoring it. She even tried calling Luca back, twice, but hung up both times before the call connected, realizing she wasn't seeking answers from him. She was avoiding the real one. On the third night, insomnia found her again. She lay awake, staring at the faint glow of streetlights filtering through her blinds. Each breath felt like a question she didn't know how to answer. Then she heard it. A soft thud from Elise's apartment. A pause. And then, quiet footsteps near their shared wall. Clara sat up, pulse stumbling. Elise wasn't knocking, but she was there. Close. Awake. Like the air itself was holding its breath between them. Clara slid out of bed, heart trembling with something halfway between fear and longing. She stood by her door for a full minute before finally opening it. The hallway was dim, washed in the soft bluish spill of the emergency light. And Elise stood there. Barefoot. Sweater sleeves pushed to her palms. Eyes tired, but warm. For a moment they simply looked at each other, the silence gentler than the last one they shared. "I'm sorry," Clara whispered. She didn't know for which part, pulling away, avoiding her, wanting her too much. Maybe all of it. Elise shook her head softly. "You don't have anything to apologize for." "I disappeared," Clara murmured. "I asked you not to," Elise said. No accusation. Just truth. A truth that stung because it mattered. Clara swallowed. "I needed time to hear my own thoughts." "And did they say anything?" Elise asked carefully. Clara exhaled, a shaky breath. "They said everything except what I needed to hear." Elise stepped one pace closer, slow, deliberate. "And what do you need to hear, Clara?" Clara didn't retreat this time. "That I'm not broken. That wanting you doesn't make me wrong. That what happened between us wasn't," she searched for the word, "a mistake." Emotion flickered across Elise's face, softening every edge. She reached out slowly, giving Clara every chance to step back. Clara didn't. Elise's fingertips brushed Clara's wrist, light as a promise. "It wasn't a mistake," Elise whispered. "Not for me." Clara's breath shivered. She hadn't realized how much she needed to hear that until now. Another step brought them even closer. The hallway felt warmer. Or she felt warmer. The air between them shifted, thick with the quiet gravity that had pulled them together since the first moment Clara heard her breath outside that door. "I was scared," Clara confessed. Of wanting someone I wasn't supposed to want. Of changing who I thought I was. Of hurting you. Of hurting him. Of everything. Elise's thumb brushed once, slow, grounding, over Clara's wrist. You're allowed to be scared. It didn't feel like I was allowed, Clara whispered. Then let me say it clearly. Elise stepped close enough that their foreheads almost met. You are allowed to want what you want. You're allowed to choose what feels true to you. Even if it surprises you. Even if it changes you. The words slid into Clara like warmth into cold skin. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting herself breathe, not around fear, but through it. Elise, she whispered, I still don't know who I am in all of this. Elise's voice softened. Then let's find out slowly. Together. We don't need answers tonight. Just honesty. Clara opened her eyes again. Elise was looking at her the same way she had looked at her the night of the kiss, gently, as if she were an unfolding thing that deserved care more than control. And maybe that's what made Clara step forward. Not certainty. Not readiness. But trust. Their hands found each other, fingers lacing in a trembling slow motion. Clara felt something inside her loosen, expand, breathe for the first time in days. Elise's hand was warm, steady. A quiet anchor. Can we go inside? Clara whispered. I don't want to talk out here. They moved into Elise's apartment, closing the door with a soft click that felt symbolic, like sealing off the noise of the world. The apartment was dim, lit only by the lamp near the bookshelf they'd built together. The drooping plant they'd noticed earlier was now freshly watered, leaves perked just slightly, reviving, but still tender. Clara stared at it, her breath catching. Elise followed her gaze. I watered it this morning, Elise murmured. It just needed attention. Clara felt the words land deeper than intended. Elise must have sensed it too, because she stepped behind her gently, letting her presence speak without touch. Clara, Elise said softly, tell me what's going on inside you. Not perfectly. Just truthfully. Clara turned. Elise stood close but not crowding, her posture open, waiting, patient. Clara's throat tightened. I think about you constantly. Elise inhaled. Slowly. Carefully. Clara continued, voice trembling with the courage of someone finally saying the thing that has lived too long in silence. I feel pulled to you. And it scares me how much I want to be near you. How right it felt. How right it still feels. Elise closed her eyes for a moment, as if steadying her own emotions. When she opened them again, they were shining with something Clara couldn't mistake. I want you near me too, Elise whispered. But not if it hurts you. It hurts more to stay away, Clara confessed. That broke something open between them. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just honest. Just human. Elise lifted a hand, moving slowly, giving Clara time to retreat. Clara didn't. Elise's fingers touched her cheek, feather-light, reverent. Clara leaned into the touch with a quiet exhale that felt like surrender. Is this okay? Elise murmured. Yes, Clara whispered. More than okay. The kiss that followed was not like the first, not hesitant, not trembling on the edge of fear. It was slow. Warm. Deep without being demanding. A conversation of breath and gentle pressure. A confession without words. Clara felt something transform inside her, not an identity, not a label, but a truth she had been circling without naming. This was real. This mattered. This was hers. When they finally parted, foreheads resting together, Elise whispered, "We'll go slow." As slow as you need. Clara nodded, breath warm against Elisa's. "I just don't want to run anymore." "You don't have to," Elise murmured. "I'm right here." They settled onto the couch, legs touching lightly, hands still interlaced. No urgency. No overwhelming heat. Just presence. Just two women letting themselves be seen. Clara laid her head against Elisa's shoulder, listening to the soft rhythm of her breath. Elisa's fingers traced small circles on the back of Clara's hand, faint, affectionate, grounding. The rain began again outside, tapping softly against the window. Not storming this time. Just whispering. The same sound that had brought them together days ago. Now transformed. Softer. Warmer. More certain. Clara closed her eyes, feeling herself settle into the truth she had fought so hard to deny. She wanted this. She wanted her. Not instead of something else. But because this quiet surrender, this slow unfolding, this honest wanting, felt like stepping into the person she was becoming. When Elise kissed the top of her head, Clara's breath trembled with something like peace. A tenderness she never thought she'd earn. A future she never knew she could want. She whispered into Elise's shoulder, "I'm scared." Elise held her gently. "I am too." They stayed like that, wrapped in shared fear and shared choosing, until fear softened into warmth. And warmth softened into possibility. And somewhere between the breaths they shared, the girl who once thought her life was perfectly organized finally let herself step into the truth that had been waiting for her all along. One soft truth can change the shape of a life more deeply than a storm ever could. What truth in your own life are you finally ready to face? If this story touched your heart, share your truth in the comments. And if this journey stayed with you, please consider subscribing to Secret Garden Stories, leaving a comment, and sharing it with friends, forums, and social media. Your support helps this channel grow and build a world with more love and less prejudice. Thank you for being here.